Hi, I'm Cynthia Hunt.
I'm Cindy Wallace.
And we're both from the Amarillo Public Library.
We're so glad you're here today. We're super excited about a project for today. It is the Spring Bouquet.
Did you see what we did there? We had a great time putting this together. And we had so much fun, we decided we wanted to tag team on putting this project together in video form for you because it does take quite a few steps.
True.
The first thing we did was paint book pages to make them into paper we could use for the flowers of the arrangement.
And staying with that book theme, we're going to use a discarded book to a couple of real simple folds, repeat it over and over, and in 30 minutes I can have you making a flower vase out of a book.
She's amazing. Then I go on ahead and I'll show you how to make a 5-petal Kusudama flower and add a button for the top and the stem.
And just because we're pretty crazy about origami in general, we're going to do a butterfly or two. Love the folds, totally addicting. You're going to love that part.
You will. And finally, we came up with a few finishing touches along with some surprises that we think you're going to like.
We can't wait to show you.
Our first step in making our spring bouquet is painting the book pages we're going to use later to make the flowers. We're going to use a gel press, a brayer, and some acrylic paint, at least 2 or 3 colors that you think would go together well. You'll also need some waxed paper that you'll cover your work surface with, and of course some book pages. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do when you are going to color your paper that you're going to use for the flowers is you need to prepare your work surface. We have put wax paper down, and the reason I'm using a non-stick surface is if you put wet, freshly painted book pages onto something like newspaper, it's going to soak into the newspaper and it's going to stick. So what you do instead is you put wax paper, or I think wax paper or parchment paper would be good, but I'm going with wax paper because I know it has a non-stick surface. You could probably also use aluminum foil, but I'm not real sure about how it would interact with the paint. And speaking of paint, we are going to be using some acrylic paint. And we're going to spray it on this jelly pad. And a jelly pad is actually soft, which is kind of cool. And it also needs to be on a non-porous surface because if you put it on newspaper, the print will transfer onto the jelly pad and then it may show up on heaven only knows how many of the pictures you use. So I've got an extra little sheet of film that came with the jelly pad, and you can see it's all kind of like a jello or jellyfish or something. But I'm going to put that on top of it as just a little bit of extra protection. And then we're going to be using some acrylic paint. The reason I'm using acrylic paint is A, it dries fast, and B, it's not real wet. If you use watercolor and you dampen it down, you're going to wind up with very warped book pages that you've painted. They'll just kind of ripple. And if you don't want that kind of effect when you're trying to fold flat pieces of paper, then you need something that isn't going to have a lot of excess moisture in it. So I'm going to be using, because this was one of my favorite combinations, some yellow, some orange, and a lime green. And you can still see the book print through it just fine, but I'm going to do some more kind of like it. No 2 pages are going to come out exactly the same. So just kind of get used to that. And you're going to put just a little bit on there. A little bit of orange. You just kind of spread it out. You don't want to roll your brayer in a little bit. We're going to be getting a brayer and putting it on there, and you don't want to roll it too much because then the colors will come together too much and it'll get real muddy looking. It won't look pretty, and I like pretty. That's the whole point of flowers, is pretty. So I'm using a little bit of brilliant yellow green and medium yellow and orange. Well, that was pretty self-explanatory. Now I'm going to get a brayer. And this isn't a paint roller, although that we're going to be rolling paint on it, but it's a little fairly smooth surface, and it's a little bit soft to the touch. And as you run this across, you're going to get smears of paint. And again, you don't want to go too much. So then you put your page down, and then you run it across that. And you don't want to do it just too hard because the page will pick up on the brayer and it will roll around it, and then you can't get it undone. So you just do a little bit, and then you pick it up by an edge. And it has paint on both sides now, which is great, and you can decide later which side you want to have be the outside of your petals or the inside of your petals. Then you can do a little bit more and do another page. And whenever you want to change colors, you have the option. See, you're not getting quite as much on the back on this one, but it'll still look pretty good. But you don't want to roll too often because it'll mix the paints up on the underside. So you can see how it's got just about all the paint off of there now. But on this page, it's still real colorful. And that's exactly what we want. So whenever you're ready to change colors, you need about 3 pages, book pages if you're going with about the size that I am. You're going to need 3 pages of painted book pages for each flower that you do. And you don't always get, not all pages come out equal, let's say. They don't all look the way you might want them to. So you may want to do 6 or 7 or 8 to come out with enough for one good flower. And I'm not using a whole lot of green because the yellow and the orange kind of overtake it. But here I'm going to take this same brayer and run it across a couple times. And then I'm going to set the brayer over there so it doesn't make a mess. And I'm going to put this side down. And I want to make sure I get all the edges, especially the outer edges of the book page, because those make really nice, crisp 90-degree angles for your pages. And that way, those will probably be the ones that you use when you're cutting your pages off. I think we've got just enough for one good coating. And try to get as much as you can on the edges of this back part, because you'll need that whenever you fold your Kusudama flowers. And you'll need about 3 pages per flower, and you can either make them all the same color or you can make them different combinations of colors. That was the orange, light green, and yellow. This is turquoise and the same light green and the same yellow. This was dark blue and light blue. This one was the green and a light blue. This is one of my favorites. It was orange, purple, and white. And then this one was a dark pink and a dark purple. So there are a lot of different combinations you can play with. You can even go on ahead and do just one color, or this had a little bit of green left on it still. So I had a little bit of lime green with a lot of yellow, and that came out just fine. But we'll be making the Kusudama flowers in a little bit. But first, you want to get your paper painted, and then you're going to let it dry. And then, whenever you're done with this, you can wash all of this off and let it air dry. You don't want to use a paper towel on it. And then once it's dry and the other pages are drying, you can go on ahead and let it air dry flat. Don't stick it in a dishwasher because those little pokey things will make dimples in your gel pad, your gel press. So go on ahead, clean that up, and then you can try several new colors. Or you can go on ahead and take two of the colors and add another different third color, like a purple or something, and just kind of rotate them out. But this will get you to where you have all the pages you need for your flowers for the spring bouquet.
It's so easy to turn what could be discarded book into a vase, believe it or not. And you have a couple of choices to think about before I have you start folding. I'll show you the steps in just a second, but see how this is just on one side and the spine of the book's holding it up? This could be put on a mantle, a bookcase. It's freestanding. You could put hangers on the back of it and hang it on a wall real easy with just a little super glue. But today we're just going to go with this half because it's self-supporting as we turn it into a vase. As you're gathering up your book, I wanted you to see that you don't need very many pages. I'd say 80, no more than 150 pages. So a pretty slim volume of a book is what I'm after. And then height-wise or size-wise, I would have you pick something that's 6 inches, no more than 8. 10 would be stretching it for this. We're turning it into a vase today. So try to go for a little bit smaller all the way around book. You'll be happier that way. So now we're going to do the book fold part, and I picked this one because we are just going to do 2 alternating folds. Every other page we'll do the same fold, alternate back and forth, and both of those are pretty easy. I wanted to show you what it looked like, then I'll actually do it. But I don't use the end cover pages, they're too stiff, but it's just a matter of folding down halfway, meeting it, folding in on that first one. Let me show you what the second one's going to look like. Then you're going to come in from the opposite direction and fold from the bottom up, come down halfway and meet it and fold it in. So I'm just going to show you a couple of times those 2 folds, and the idea is that I do that to the entire book. Now this book is a half of book, and I wanted to tell you a couple of things about it while you're looking. This is a small book, and I would recommend 80 to no more than 150 pages. Also not a very tall book. Most of these are maybe, I see one that's about 6 inches tall. The one you have in front of you is probably close to 8, and the one I'm going to demonstrate on is also about an 8-inch tall book. So they're not big in any way. They're slender in volume, not too many pages. You don't need them to carry this out. If you wanted to do a 3-dimensional one as opposed to one that is half, then I would choose a paperback book, pull the heavier spine off, fold as many of the pages as necessary to get it 3D or in the round, because either will work beautifully for this project. Okay, let's do a couple of folds. This is not hard. This whole little vase took about 30 minutes, just concentrated folding. So these are the end papers. This one is glued to this. It's one sheet put down in my book. It's heavier, like heavy construction paper. Don't use it, it's too thick. I actually cut those out and put pretty paper or contrasting paper like you saw. So these are pretty easy. I'm folding from the top down to the middle. Then I'm going to get this bottom and fold up to the corner here. Now I've got this, it's real easy. Start with that top one, that's the secret. Now this point that's right here, I'm going to bring it and fold it there. So it's a little bit like origami. Nothing complicated about this one at all. This is the fold that will be every other page. That's what was in the book, the vase that you just saw. I had several designs. This tends to be the student favorite. This half one will probably take you a solid 30 minutes. If you do a whole one, allow at least an hour. Then come to the next page. This time fold from the bottom up, from the top down to meet that 90-degree fold that you did. You can't get it wrong. And this time, instead of folding this to this, we're actually going to roll. That's my secret for this part, is to roll this page in almost like a cone. Get it down into the middle of the book before you press and flatten. Let's do that one more time for each one. You simply alternate. So remember, on this one it was top down, so I'm going back to top down, crease. That's 90 degree. Fold up from the bottom, just meeting, not overlapping. Give it a good finger press. Take this point and fold to the point where those meet. That part needs to be consistent so that your vase shape stays consistent. And keep in mind, if you found a fold that you liked and didn't mind doing over and over real quick, you could really change the shape of your vase. I've done it. I can make tall, skinny ones, short, fat ones, all shapes. Remember, now we're going to fold from the bottom up. We're alternating. So I've got two of these now. So for this one, bottom up, tuck into the center of the book, 90 degree, take the top, come down, just meeting, not overlapping. Again, I get the same point, but this time I'm going to roll into the center of my book. And I go through and I literally do the whole book, quick and easy. Can't get this one wrong. You don't have to do any measuring, marking, or cutting like I do in so many of my folded books. This is a really user-friendly little design. Just alternate those two folds until you come to the end of your book. And this is what it will look like in this case with those two folds.
Okay, the paint on our book pages is dry, so it's time to make flowers. You're going to need your dried book pages, and you'll be cutting them in to 3" by 3" squares. You'll also need some glue. It can be Aleene's tacky glue, it can be Elmer's, anything that dries fairly clearly. You'll want to have a glue gun and some glue sticks. Let's see, you're going to need some wire cutters and some stem wire. You can get these at pretty much any craft store. You'll also need, for each flower that you do, 5 paper clips. And you're going to be using those quite a lot to hold the petals together, because you'll make the petals individually, and then to hold the petals to each other when you put the flower together. So let's get started. For our Kusudama flowers that we're going to be using for our bouquet, we are going to be needing 5 3" by 3" squares of paper. And if you don't have a gel press or a brayer, you can go on ahead and do this by dry painting with just a regular artist's brush, and you just use the different colors and do them pretty quick so that they kind of have a little bit of a chance to blend together. But you would do that on both sides, and you can tell which side was against the gel press and which side was not. And I would say use the prettiest part of your bouquet for each petal on the outside of your first fold. So what we're going to do, we're using 5 petal Kusudama flowers. So this is a petal that we're going to be doing, and the first thing we're going to do is line it up at the top and do a diagonal corner to corner fold, just like that. Then what we're going to do is figure out where the middle is and line this corner on the right and line it up with that point at the top of that triangle. And that makes another fold. Do the same thing with the one on the left. And it forms a little square. And if it's not perfect, don't worry about it. You don't have to be perfect on this. It's one of the reasons I like this flower. After you've made your little square, what you're going to do is roll back this edge against the outer edge of the square. So it goes like that. And this edge again needs to line up along this side of the square. And you may need to put your fingernail in there to get it to make a sharp crease at the very tip. And if it's not perfect, that's okay too, because it's going to be all covered up. Yay! So now you have something that looks a little bit like a bug body with two little wings. It's not going to stay like this. Then you're going to take the inner layer of paper of that fold on the right, and you're going to, what is called blowing it out, and it forms a diamond, and then flatten it. And do the same thing on the other side. And the neat thing is with this paint on it, it feels different. It feels coated and it lies really nicely. So now you've got 3 diamonds that are the same size. What you're going to do now is fold this flap over and this flap over. And then you're going to fold this corner up to meet that corner, like that. Do the same thing on the other side, and now you've got a little square again. But wait, there's more. Now you're going to get some glue, and I'm using some Aleene's tacky glue, but I've also done a lot of these with just plain old Elmer's. But what you're going to do is have some paper clips ready and your glue, and you're going to glue a little bit of glue. It doesn't take a whole lot, just a little. And you're going to press this glued fold over onto this glued fold. Do not fold the part in between. It's going to curve around. And you're going to pinch it for just a second or two. And see how pretty that makes it already? It's starting to look pretty and like a flower petal. Then what you're going to do is get a paper clip, and you're going to clip those 2 inner petals. There will be 3 of them, and you want, see, 1, 2, 3, and you want to make sure the 2 in the middle, which are one from one side of the square and the other is from the other side of the square. You want those together, and put your paper clip as close to parallel to this inner edge as you can, because that's going to be the center of your petal, and you're going to be needing to glue that. And you don't want to put your paper clip too far in. Now, if you want to see more petal folding, you can on our origami video that we did, and it'll have a section on the Kusudama flower that will go from 5 to 8 petals. But what we're doing on this one is we are strictly working with the 5-petal Kusudama flowers, because that involves doing a lot less pages of paper. So once this is dry, you get 2 of these together, and this is the one I just did, and you can take off their little paper clips and keep one together. And what you're going to do is do about that same size on the outside edge, and then you're going to take the second petal and press it up against it, and you want them to be level. And you're going to take this and clip those 2 together. And you want these edges to be level with each other, and you want these edges level to each other. And then you keep doing that until you have 5 petals. Okay, so you get another petal and you put it against the second petal that you put on, and then you're going to clip them together. And if you clip this outer part to the side, it doesn't really matter. You just want to make sure that these are the same height, that you don't put the cut ends of your paper clip down inside, and that these are not lower or higher, or one is sticking out way more into the center than the others are. So I'm going to get another one. And put the glue on. Put this level with that one. Get another paper clip. And make sure they both have the curved end down. I'm going to move this one up a little bit and forward a little bit because it got pushed down a little bit. And that's 4. Now you would say, well, I don't think 5 is going to be enough on this. Believe me, it is. What you're going to do is you are going to glue one side, put your petal against it, make sure they're about level, put that paper clip in, and then you're going to glue the other side. And this is where it helps it to be a little bit more curved this way. So we're going to bring those two together and get our 5th and final paper clip for our flower and put those two sides together. And you may need to adjust a little bit to make sure all the ends at the bottom come together. And then you wind up with this 5-petal flower. Now I'm going to let this one dry a little bit, and I'm going to get a glue gun with a glue stick in it and a piece of stem wire. And for this you don't need like an 18-inch stem wire. This is probably going to be about 9 to 10 inches. And on some of them I went on ahead and did a full 12 inches. But what you're going to do is you're going to put the end of your stem wire into the center of your Kusudama flower. And you're going to run it in until there's only about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. Then you'll get your glue gun and you're going to put some glue around all the sides of your stem wire so that it will come in contact with the paper. Because I don't like a messy flower. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get that little wisp of glue. I'm going to pull it in so that any smearing is on the inside of the flower. And I'm going to put it just about 1/8 of an inch, the end of the stem, about 1/8 of an inch down inside that hole so that I can add a little button to the top of this to look super cool. And I think I'm going to use this button. I think it's pretty. So I'm going to get a little bit more of the glue from the hot glue gun and run it around the tops of the innermost part of that's going to be covered by the button, and a little bit in the middle too, so this little shank. And I like to use these shank buttons because that way you don't have to mess with any holes. And I can push this in there and it will hold and make a pretty button. Nice little flower that makes the inside of the flower. And you can do them really round or fairly flat. You can use pearlized ones. This one's silver. I'm doing all different kinds of colors on this. Went a little bit crazy. This one's more of a pearl again. And this is pearlized, but it has the colors, a lot of purple in it. So I decided, well, that would be good for the purple flowers. But this way you could do all of your flowers before you start assembling your vase. And this is how you do that. So now you know how to do a Kusudama flower, and if you want to know more origami, or if you want a more in-depth feature on Kusudama flowers, go on ahead and go to our other origami video. And now see, these are already ready to do duty. Yay! Just make sure that you have a big enough button to cover the hole in the middle. One of the benefits of going with a 5-petal Kusudama flower is that it has a smaller hole. The more petals you have, the bigger the hole is going to be, and the harder it's going to be to find buttons that will fit. And that's how you do it.
I just love origami, so I'm going to toss it in anytime I get a chance. For the butterfly steps, we need very little supplies. You can use anything from magazine pages that are colorful to things like origami paper, easy to come by, not terribly expensive. We're going to turn it into beautiful butterflies, and all you're going to need is a square. The squares I'm going to use today are 6 inches, but some of my butterflies are 4 and 2 inch squares, so I think go pretty small. You'll need some scissors. You'll definitely want something like a bone folder. Let's get started. All right, let's get started on the butterfly part. It's going to really look good with our flowers. I wanted to let you know a couple of things I've learned about the paper while playing with these addictive butterflies. And you can make these out of book pages, calendar pages, leftover magazines that Mama doesn't want. Anything that's colorful, I think, will make you a good butterfly. But I'm going to use origami paper, and I have a reason. I want to teach you a couple little things I've been learning. This one I got at one of the big box stores. It was $11 for like 400 sheets of paper, and I wanted you to see that there's wonderful patterns in here, but this particular one is just white paper on the other side. That might be something you'd want to consider for this project, because I might steer you away from the white back. Then I started ordering off of Amazon. I wanted to try this brand, and I wanted to show you a couple of things. This one is the kimono pattern in this book, but I'm ordering them because they're colored on both sides. So here's you a couple of samples. Beautiful papers in this book, but what I liked about it was every paper has a coordinating color on the back side. So now I think I've upped my game a little bit. That one's really pretty. Then I tried just recently, I just wanted some solid, but what they're calling rainbow color. So it's the same company. I think I paid $6 or $7. It wasn't terrible. Each one of these has a few origami patterns inside, and all kinds on the inside, as you can see, all kinds of patterns that you can order. But for example, this is a pink and a yellow. That'll make a real good sample. We can use any of these, but these two tones, they cost a little bit more, but in some cases I absolutely think they're worth it. So what I want to do is make, like this was my first one, and he was black on one side, orange on the other, and I liked it because he looked like Halloween. And a little bit of the orange peeks through like that. Then I wanted to up the game a little bit, so I went from, and you can do any size square. Look, here's a smaller one. I've even got one that looks like a moth made out of a scrap. You guys know how much I like recycling and using my scraps. But I wanted you to see that you can not only change the size and scale of your butterfly, but look right here. It makes it a little more interesting when there's a built-in secondary color going on. Yes, I do some trimming, but I think you'll be real pleased with this. The other thing I wanted to show you before I teach you the very simple fold to produce this three-dimensional butterfly is I really liked it when I took a chance and I used a solid color for the back one, made the exact same butterfly a second time, and just glue gunned him in place. He's just one glued on top of another, but don't you think that gives it quite a nice shadow effect with the pattern on top and a solid color on the bottom? So it's the same fold. fold, same butterfly, so I only have to teach you the pattern one time, but I really thought that it enhanced the look of the butterfly and upped the game when we doubled up with 2 butterflies, one glued on top, kind of a shadow effect. All right, let's learn the folds. They're lovely, they're fun, they're addictive. You may want that bone folder. It's one of my favorite tools for all my paperwork. All right, let's see. Well, let's have a yellow butterfly. So let's do horizontal folds. The first few folds in origami are the important ones. So you'll see me using this bone folder to get a good crease. If you don't have a bone folder, a discarded credit card, driver's license, anything that will help you get a nice crisp fold will benefit you in a few minutes. So easy. So I've got it, there it is, it's an X. Now I'm going to do diagonals. Same thing, really like that bone folder. Both directions. Open up, diagonal the other direction. Be as careful as you can. If you're off a little bit, this one allows for some trimming, but as best you can, get it like that. Now, this is the tricky part of this one, and I'm going to give you my best secret because it took making quite a few different pieces of origami to learn the trick. So I've got a star fold pattern going on, and I have the sides of my square. Depending on the origami that you're doing, we can make fold this into more squares or into a triangle. Today, we need a triangle, and this is the secret. Put your fingers on the edge of the square, not on the diamond part, the pointy part, but on this part. What we're going to do, let me show you by doing, is that part needs to sink in. We are going to be, hang on, I'm going to grab my pencil. We're going to be after this triangle pattern right here. That's what's important. That's what I want to produce for you. So all you have to do is make sure that this sinks in. Bring this corner to this corner like that. So I want it to look like that. Now here's the opposite side. Remember, it's the side, and I'm going to gently push it in, bringing that corner to this corner. Lay it down, check it out. Okay, so that was so easy, and I didn't always have that much of an easy time getting this exact shape. I got a square half the time, but the trick is pinching it in on that side, not the pointed part. Now I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to fold the bottom up so that I have yet another triangle, but this is really important. See all these little loose pieces here like the pages of a book? That's the part like a snowflake that I want to cut with. So grab a pair of scissors. There's no pattern to this. What I'm going to do is round off on these only. Just going to cut a round shape. And the more you do them, the braver you'll get, including some trimming till you get just what you want. Push that away. This is the shape that I now have because I trimmed on the proper side. When I gently open it up, I kind of see basically a heart shape. See, not too bad. Now there's a middle line right there in the middle that I need, and I'm only going to use the top part, not both pieces for this. So I'm going to fold to the middle using the top. I'm going to fold to the middle using the top. No overlapping. Just let them barely meet, or if you have to choose, not quite, but no overlapping. That's the look and the shapes that you're currently after. Then we're going to turn it over because I want you to see this point on this side. That's what I'm going to manipulate next for this little piece of origami. Now watch what I'm doing. I'm pulling that triangle up and back over. It's going to feel funny the first time you do it. See how he's starting to bow? This is what's addictive about this. Make him bow, fold that triangle down over. If you get courageous, you can do like this one and fold that triangle back up to produce a little head for your butterfly, but you don't have to. You will, however, have to have enough of a triangle to be able to do that. It's perfectly okay to leave your triangle just like you see here. Be ready for the bowing that happens when you fold that triangle back up over. Now you might think that this was supposed to be the good side, but this is the back side of your butterfly. This is the good side. So with that triangle and that little seam right there in the middle, be brave. I'm going to put my thumb there, and we're actually going to pinch the middle. That's the secret to making this butterfly stand up. So I'm pinching pretty hard because I'm going through several thicknesses of paper. And there, no matter which direction you're turning or fluffing, is the perfect three-dimensional butterfly. Now you can layer these. Remember, if you want that sort of shadow effect, here's one that's just a onesie, and the one we just made, you could glue gun one on top of the other. And my little trick to that is, see how the yellow one is poking out a little bit further? If you want that shadow effect, that's how I achieved it. I put one up a little higher than the other when I glue gun them down. So you can have singles that are quite nice. You can use any size square that you want. You can use patterns and solids, and no matter what you do, you're going to have a gorgeous butterfly for this project.
So, we've got our beautiful folded book vase, we've got our flowers made, and we've got some gorgeous, gorgeous origami butterflies for garnish. Now it's time to put it all together. Now we're ready to assemble. We've got our beautiful folded book vase, and I've started putting in some of the bottom row of flowers. And what I'm doing to make sure that they stay put is I'm sticking the stem down into the area between the pages and the spine, and then folding it over and seeing where it touches the vase and where it touches its neighboring flower, because that's where I'm going to put my hot glue. So now we're having a little bit here, here, and along here. So I'm going to get the glue gun and put a little bit of glue here, a little bit of glue there, and then a little bit of glue along here. So it will have something to stick to. Then I'm going to stick that petal where it's going to touch those two. And I'm going to pinch it just a little bit. And then I'm going to also press it down against the book vase. And I want it to come out a little bit past the edge, not much. If you look at it from the top, you can see it's just basically covering this top part of the pages for that top fold. I'm going to hold it just a little bit, and I may touch it up a little bit more later with just a little bit more glue. There we go. And then I'm going to add the next flower. And I'm going to put it in there first because I'm not sure exactly how far I want it to fold over. And then I'll fold it. And you can tell I've got a little bit of different, we're going warm, cool, warm, cool, warm on the colors, because we want them to complement each other but not drive you crazy and not be all too much cool in one place and not all hot in another place. And I'm going to bring it up now and see where these little stinkers are going to touch. And I need to bring this one down a little bit more. And it's going to touch right along in here. I'm going to put that piece, one petal, between those other two petals. And then I'm going to lift this up and let it glue underneath across these pages. I'm going to let it, these little wisps of hot glue drive me nuts. I'm going to go on ahead and put it over here. So we've got our first row completed. And I'm going to see if there's any places where I need to add a little bit more glue, because it's going to get hard to do once I've got other flowers on top of it. Do I want to go on ahead and do that? Or do I want to leave it apart a little bit? Okay. So there we go with our first level of flowers in our spring bouquet. And yes, we are corny and we do like it that way. So for our next level, we are going to do 4. And I'm still picking out some of that hot glue. I'm going to look at how I want to put this, because I want to put a purple over on this side, probably, because I've got a purple down there. And then probably an orange next to that. And then a green and turquoise flower next to that. And finally, I'm going to put a yellow and blue one, because I did a mix over here. I'm going to do a mix over on this one. So I'm going to put them on in that order. And this one is going to bend a little bit at less of an angle. The others are almost bent like this. I'm going to bend them at more of a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to cut off a little bit of the end of this flower stem so it will fit, and I'm going to see where it fits in there, and it looks like that will fit just about right. And it's going to touch this side of this petal, it'll touch between those 2 petals, and that's about it. So I'm going to lift this up a little bit, and I'm going to get my glue gun, and I'm going to glue along these 2 petals here and on this side of this petal. And then I'm going to put it back and press it together. So it's going to touch those 2. And I'm going to press it together with my fingers to make sure there's a good seal. I'll push this stem back a little bit farther. There we go. I'm going to push these together so that they have a nice seal on it. And this side of the petal on this flower will touch that purple petal. So there we go with the first one on the second row. Then I'm going to get a cool one. Let's see. Don't want to have too much. This look better? Okay, I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to put that stem in to keep it all corralled, and it'll touch around here, and it's going to touch mostly along here and here on this one. So I'm going to put a little glue here, and a little glue here, and a little glue here, and a little glue in here. And then I'm going to push it in. And this way you have the 2 sides of this yellow flower touching the orange. I'm going to pull it out just a little bit and have it touching that purple one. And now you have 2 purples that aren't exactly together, 2 oranges that aren't exactly together. And then I'm going to put this green and light blue together. And I'm going to put it in there, make a little bend, so it's about 45-degree angle. And that'll touch just past the tip of this one, just past the tip of this one, and it'll touch both of those. So I'm going to pull it out just a little bit, and I'm going to go on ahead and touch here. And here. And I'm going to go ahead and touch this one up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to place it in there. Don't want to go too deep, but I want to go deep enough, which I know isn't very helpful. It's like, well, I want it deep, but I don't want it deep enough. I feel like Goldilocks. I want it just right. I'm going to hold these together so that they can form a bond. And now I've only used 8 flowers so far. So I'm going to look at this and say, okay, do I want to put another flower over here and one over here and then one on top? Or do I want to, but I have another blue one. I've got a yellow one, but that's right over that other one. So the blue one over here, over here. And then do we want the purple and green one here? Right about here, and then up a little bit. And do we want one more, or is that one more? So we can put this one. It's too long a stem, I'm gonna have to cut him. I feel so brutal, I keep cutting these poor things. Especially after the work we put in making these. So I can have that one, and that one. Let's see, that's too much cool temperature. I'm gonna put this one in the middle. Now, I can go on ahead and figure out where I'm going to glue these. Is that about how we would like it to look? Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue here and tap it against that center flower, and a little bit of glue over here and tap it against that one. I'm going to put a little bit of glue along these so they tap against the purple one. I feel like I'm working with cobwebs with this glue gun. Let's see. And then I'm going to move this one just a little bit so it touches right here. There we go. And there you have a spring bouquet. And what you can do then is you add your butterfly. I'm going to put a little dabble do him. I'm going to put a little glob of glue along the underside of our pretty beautiful butterfly. And I'm going to put him right there and hold him for just a minute or two because those book pages are wobbling around on me and I don't want to separate them just too much. And then, once he's nice and steady, which may take a minute, so I'm going to hold him, but he's on there. There we go. Then I'm going to take this other butterfly, and I think I'm going to put him right about here. I'm going to get a nice little glob of glue because I'm not sure exactly where he's going to touch these pretty little flowers, but he's going to be a happy little butterfly. I'm going to put him going the other direction up near the top. And I'm going to hold him in place. Blow on him a little bit like my mother used to do when she'd put merthiolate on my scrapes. And oh my gosh, that stuff would hurt. But this doesn't hurt at all. It's just a very happy butterfly. And here we have a spring bouquet. And it'll stand up all on its own. This makes a wonderful present for Mother's Day or birthdays or graduation. And this is a terrific thing, especially to give to somebody in, say, residential care, because they will have very little storage space, and this is very shallow. It doesn't take a whole lot of depth, and if somebody happens to walk away with it, well, all it took was a little bit of your time and a lot of love. And that's a great little gift you can give.
So, Cynthia and I are always bouncing ideas off of each other, and we have the best time doing it. So we're going to share a little bit of that with you today. We thought you could push it a little bit further if you wanted to. For example, you could take some pretty ribbon and put it around the vase, and what would you do with it?
Well, you could go on ahead and hot glue it and tuck it in behind the vase, and also maybe add another bow on the neck of the vase. Coco Chanel used to say less is more, but Cindy and I subscribe to the school of more is more. So you can do that. You can also use we just used some plain colored copy paper to make some filler leaves. You can make these by just getting a piece of about a 3-inch strip of paper and cutting down about 2.5 inches and then rolling it up. And then you can make the edges curl, and you can tuck those in wherever you want, and it'll fill in some of that. You can either glue them in place or just stick them in there. We also made some different leaves. You want to show them the accordion leaf?
Oh yeah, I love the accordion. It started out as an earring one time, but I like the shape. It totally looks like a leaf. And all I did was just freeform, cut a leaf shape, accordion fold it. Then you can bend it and shape it a little bit so it fits wherever you want it to fit. And you can tuck it in. Again, we'd get the glue gun out and make sure it didn't go anywhere.
Another thing you can do is make a 2-layered leaf, where I used contrasting colors, shades of green, and make one that's just a smoothed edge and then a narrower one using some of the shears that we have that have a textured edge. And you can go on ahead and make that one a little bit thinner. Then I just used a glue stick to stick those together. And then you can make it curve, and again, just tuck them in and glue them once you're done, and you can glue them from the back side pretty easily without messing up anything. So those are some things that you can try, and you may come up with some things of your own.
And I would do something totally wild. I'd go get me some eyeballs or some googly eyes come fall. And we'd glue eyeballs into the middle of our flowers. I'd go for a Halloween theme or fall, maybe make my flowers more orangey yellow, maybe some maroon. And I'd totally start attaching maybe a bat right about there.
Or a tarantula, great big tarantula crawling up. And you could use the wispy things from the glue gun to make spider webs.
Spider web, I love it.
Would be cool.
I love it.
So we hope you've enjoyed making this video and any bouquets that you make on your own as much as we've enjoyed making this video for you. If you have, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the notification bell so you know when we've got something else for you.
See you next time.
Bye.